Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Rex. See you next year. All right, Chris Klingman, are you going to be the first up tonight or today? This is in regards to the Clean Ohio funds and a request for the Clermont County Park District to acquire property.
I'm Chris Klingman, Director of the Clermont County Park District, and we're here today to inform commissioners that the Park District intends to apply for a Clean Ohio Fund grant for green space conservation. The Clean Ohio Fund, Green Space Conservation Fund, helps fund preservation of open spaces and sensitive ecological areas and stream areas throughout the state of Ohio. It was a bond program that was originally approved by the voters in 2000 and renewed by the voters again in 2008. Funds are allocated through the 19 Ohio Public Works Commission districts throughout the state, and the OPWC district integrating committees appoint members to each district's NREC, their Natural Resources Assistance Council, to review and approve projects. Our district is District 10. We're there with Butler, Clinton, and Warren counties, and the grant applications are competitive within the district. So when you put in your grant application, you're competing with other projects from Butler, Warren, and Clinton counties. This round of applications will have a $2.6 million available to be awarded by the NRACs. The local NRACs approve the projects, much like the integrating committee approves the projects for the Public Works Commission's money. The integrating committees are made up of representatives of local government, park districts, soil and water conservation districts, regional planning commissions, and business representatives. It's an 11-member group. As part of the application process, each year park districts are required to notify the county commissioners that we are applying for a grant. Other local government entities are also eligible to apply for those grants, and they too have to notify the commissioners. Nonprofit, conservation-minded organizations are also able to apply for grants through the funding, but they are required to get local government support of their applications as part of their application process. Passed out to you just a brief handout on a project that the Park District is working on, which is in addition to the property that we purchased last year through Clean Ohio Fund outside of Loveland at Grailville there in Miami Township. Last year we were able to purchase 72 acres through the Clean Ohio Fund, and this year we've worked out with the Grail to purchase an additional 40 acres that they would like to see preserved. We've been in contact with Miami Township and actually working with Miami Township and members of the Grail to work out the proposed project, and we have Miami Township support for it. This particular piece of property has a stream running through the center of it that's a tributary to the O'Banion Creek, which is also a tributary to the State Scenic River there at Loveland, the Little Miami River. This particular piece of property is very rolling and very scenic, and we think it'll make a great park spot, and eventually we're going to restore much of that area to, if you want to call it a prairie or meadow type habitat, which will be beneficial to grassland birds, and also there's a small wetland area in there, and then also you'll be providing protection to the stream corridor. So once we make this acquisition, if we are approved by the NRAC for the grant, it'll bring the total acreage to the area there to 112 acres. We plan to develop picnic shelter, restroom facilities, and hiking trails throughout the property. The neat thing about this piece of property in my mind is it's always been open to the public for hiking. The Grail has always made it available to the citizens of the area to use, and we'll be able to continue that as the Grail sort of transitions out of the retreat business that they've been doing there, and could see, you know, future development in other parcels of the property. So this is kind of a nice addition to be able to put it all together there, and also give us a presence right outside of the Loveland area. Any questions on our little project?
On the Grailville, what was the, I think you said 40 acres. What was the price, or what are you asking for NRAC?
We'll be asking from NRAC for about 1.8 million. The appraised value was a little over 2.8 million for it.
And then last year, Chris, and I'd forgotten this, but the Grailville was 72 acres purchased in '06. Is that right?
In 16, you mean?
Oh, sorry, yeah, 16, yeah. My dyslexia got ahead of me there. What was the price of the 72 acres? Was it similar? Or was it
It was that partial, the portion we bought last year wasn't as developable. It was steep stream side and hillside, so the value was less, but more acreage, so it was the same, generally about 1.8 million was what it was.
good?
And the Grail is donating about 35% of the value for it.
Commissioners, any questions?
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
And then Corey Christopher's here from the Nature Center to talk about their project.
Great. Lori, come on up. And welcome.
Thank you.
Introduce yourself. You're relatively new to the Nature Center, and
That's
glad you're
right.
here.
So I thank you. So my name is Corey Christopher. I'm the director of the Center for Conservation at the Cincinnati Nature Center. And so I oversee all of our land management and stewardship operations, as well as our education programs. And we have two locations that we own and that we manage as nature preserves and recreational areas. One in Milford, which is Roe Woods. It's the larger of the two. But we also have 650 acres in Goshen and in our Long Branch Farm and Trails facility. And fortunately, I'm glad Chris went first, because he said a lot of the explanation about Clean Ohio, because we're also pursuing Clean Ohio funds to expand our Goshen property. We are right now at a time in the Nature Center's history where we have an incredible growth in membership. So 5 years ago, membership and visitation, 5 years ago we were seeing about 130,000 people a year come through our gates. Last year we had this year we're on target to have 210,000 people come through our gates. And one of our strategies is to really focus on Long Branch Farm and Trails and see how can we begin diverting some of the people that always come to Roe Woods to Long Branch Farm and Trails. And some of that means updating some of the facilities, as well as expanding the amount of trails that we have there for people to hike on. This property is actually up for sale, but the seller wants the Nature Center to have it. He's actually been offered more for the property than what he wants to sell it to us for. It is approximately 125 acres off of Hill Station Road. It is currently in, as you can see, forest. It's outlined in yellow. Has some forest, couple streams that are tributaries to O'Bannon Creek, as Chris mentioned, which happens to be a tributary to the Little Miami. Those agricultural fields are currently being farmed by the same farmer who leases some of our fields. As you can see, the Long Branch Farm facilities there in pink, outlined in red. And our plan then is to take all of those fields that you see outlined in yellow, and beginning in fall of 2018, begin turning those back into native prairie habitat. giving the farmer another year to transition out of those fields. The other plan for that area, well, let me start with the objectives. As I was saying, we need more place for visitors. And we need to make Long Branch Farm and Trail as a destination both for members and for non-members. And we also want to further our goal of increasing native habitat in the region, focusing from my perspective first on Clermont County. So those are our major objectives, but these are pictures taken from the site. After we transition those 85 acres of cropland, we're hoping to develop more extensive recreational and educational trail systems. So we could have public events, we could do all sorts of educational programming on native habitats, on prairies, but there is some work that needs to be done on that property, including removing Amur honeysuckle, the invasive bush honeysuckle, as well as cleaning up some of the litter that sort of accumulated over the years. We're going to see a greater protected green space, a healthier riparian buffer. Right now, there's really not a lot of protection for those streams from either agricultural runoff or for any of the litter that you saw out in the forested areas. So we want to make sure that we have an intact riparian buffer, meaning the wooded areas alongside that will be healthier, and hopefully we're going to restore some of those ecological functions, and then also have increased visitation, so getting more people to Goshen, so that instead of having everybody coming to Milford, having a facility that's just as sought after as our Milford property is. So that's really the short version of that. I've given you both some awesome handouts on the property. The appraised value is $500,000. That was the Clean Ohio has a number of approved appraisers. It was appraised at $500,000. Part of that appraisal, the reason it was lower than what we are being asked to pay for it. So the seller is giving it to us for $650,000. The reason that it was appraised for $500,000 is with the way the property is being or has been divided. When he appraised it, he had to appraise it as though we weren't going to purchase it. He just had to appraise it at the existing, the way the land is. And what happened is there's very little access from Hill Station Road to that property. So if a farmer wanted to get a tractor over to that property, he couldn't. We can because we have the adjacent land. And so even though it appraised for $500,000, it's really important for us, and it's actually our highest priority land to purchase. It's easy access for us. It would be no access for someone else purchasing it. And we're only concerned about potential development along that strip. So it's a total price of $650,000. We're going to invest another $50,000 to $60,000 in restoration of that land, including the prairie and the invasive honeysuckle removal. And we're going to be matching the Clean Ohio money with probably 30 to 35% contribution towards the purchase price, which is about 10% more than we're required to invest. So we are here just to seek county support for that, for our proposal. And
Corey, quick question. Yeah. How does that work if the appraised value is $500,000, but you're asking $650,000? Typically, there's kind of a donation percentage, like 25% is what NRAC asks for. How does that work in this case?
So I've been actually working, fortunately, with Chris a lot on this. We are not expecting to get more than the appraised value for the property from our NRAC. However, we did want to show that we are contributing the difference between the appraised value and the value that we're purchasing it for. And on top of that, we're contributing at least 25% of the $500,000 purchase price. And so we are trying to show that we are investing as much as we possibly can in the property, knowing that ultimately we're probably only going to get 75% of the $500,000 appraised value.
For Chris and Corey, for both properties, are the owners who are selling, Are they contributing back as an endowment to this property to maintain it carrying forward? I don't know if that's unusual or common, or I'm relatively new to this as of the last year in terms of this group.
In our case, no, but the seller will retain an adjacent parcel of land. And so he is a supporter of the Nature Center and has allowed all, he's comfortable with sort of an informal easement access if we needed to use a portion of his land. But as far as contributing financially to any ongoing endowment for management, no, he will not be contributing.
The Grail did make a contribution back to us after the first purchase to help with some of the items. There's a house we need to take down off the property and things to help with those costs. We don't have any formal agreement this time around on that, but we are looking. They are considering some additional property down the road that they may be donating.
Yeah. I know gravel, it's tough to work with the group because it's so large. I mean, you got how many, 100-something
There's
owners?
350 members that they have to get
350.
consensus from to be able to do anything. So the first round that we did last year, they had consensus to sell us the wooded portion, and they had other projects proposed for the property we're buying this round, but none of the membership would agree to all those proposals. And then they came back and the membership agreed to sell
Sure.
us that.
Okay.
I have a Cincinnati Nature Center, you said, is in Milford?
Our main offices are in Milford, but we have
Is that
two
Union
properties.
Township,
It is.
Milford Post Office.
That's right.
Okay, I used to be a trustee, so
Okay.
so I flame a little when I hear the post office referenced as the location rather than the township referenced as the
Sure,
location.
right,
So-
sure.
No other questions? Great. Hey, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Corey, good luck at the Cincinnati Nature Center.
Yeah, so I left, I'll bring it back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we want to do this at the end? Well, let's go ahead with the consent agenda first. Is that what you would do, Judy? And the add-ons, when do we want to add these to?
We can do them at the close of the meeting, or you can address them at this point in time, so.
I'll tell you what, since we just went through them, let's go ahead and go that. The first one is the Cincinnati Parks request for the 40 acres in Grailville. Andy, do you want to read that one?
Yeah, sure. It's a recommend. Let me make sure I have the right one here. Yeah, recommendation that the Board of County Commissioners execute a letter of support dated 9/27/2017 relative to the Clermont County Park District's Clean Ohio Program grant application for funding to be utilized for the acquisition of 40 acres for the Grailville Green Space Project located in Miami Township.
Okay. Do we have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Ubel?
I'll abstain since I'm on the NREC committee.
And
Second one?
next one's a recommendation that the board executes a letter of support dated today as well relative to the Cincinnati Nature Center's Clean Ohio Program grant application for funding to be utilized for the acquisition of 124 acres for the Long Branch Creek Habitat Protection Project located in Goshen Township.
Okay. Can we get a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second?
Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye.
Mr. Ubel?
Abstain. Okay, Commissioners, then going to our agenda from September 27th, we've got our consent agenda, which we were given the end of last week, and I'm sure we've all perused it, and had we had any questions, we would have brought them up before now, but otherwise, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as shown.
I make a motion we approve the consent agenda as prepared.
I second that.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Ubel?
Yes. And turning over to page 6, we have the non-consent agenda. The first item, item 8, is payment of our bills, Resolution 146-17, in the amount of $288,696.95. Can we get a motion to pay our bills on item 8?
So moved.
Second?
Mr. Painter,
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey,
Aye.
Mr. Ubel.
Yes. Good morning, Connie Tibby.
Good morning. Connie Tibby with the Department of Job and Family Services. Next item is the recommendation of Judy Eshman, the Director of the Department of Job and Family Services, with the concurrence of Thomas J. Eigel, Interim County Administrator, to execute the sub-grant agreement by and between the Board of Clermont County Commissioners on behalf of the Clermont County Department of Job and Family Services, who is the administrative agent for the Clermont County Family and Children First, and Clermont County Family and Children First out of Batavia, Ohio, for the provision of temporary assistance for needy families or TANF program services for eligible TANF clients of Clermont County Family and Children First, in accordance with the scope of services attached thereto and incorporated therein as Exhibit 1, for a total amount not to exceed $100,000. It's effective for the period of October the 1st of 17 through September 30th, 18, with the option to renew for 2 additional one-year periods, pursuant to compliance with the terms and conditions set forth therein and contingent upon the issuance and receipt of a purchase order required therefore.
Thank you. We get a motion then to execute the sub-grant agreement between the Clermont County and the Clermont County Family and Children's First, including the contingencies as referenced in item 9.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Humphrey,
Aye.
Mr. Painter,
Yes.
Mr. Ubel.
Yes. Item 10. Oh, thanks, Connie. Julie, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good.
Hi, I'm Julie Fry, the Director of the Common Pleas Court Adult Probation Department, and I'm here to recommend, with the concurrence of Thomas Eigel, to execute an addendum to the subsidy grant agreement by and between the County of Clermont, Ohio, and the State of Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Correction, the Division of Parole and Community Services, the Bureau of Community Sanctions in Columbus, Ohio, previously ratified by the Board on September 9th this year for the September 1st, 2017, for the Probation Improvement and Incentive Grant identified as PIG 2018 Clermont CPAPD 00044 for and on behalf of the Clermont County Court of Common Pleas Adult Probation Department as the designated implementing agency, therefore, which represents an increase in the amount of $28,124 for a revised grant award amount of $70,099 and reflects the funding, therefore, for an additional 2 months for a total of 5 months of the grant period of July 1st of 2017 through June 30, 2019, effective October 1, 2017 through 11/30/2017, pursuant to the terms and conditions set forth therein and in compliance with the directives heretofore received from Christopher Galley, Chief of the Bureau of Community Sanctions for the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Correction, in and as it relates to the automatic renewal of fiscal year 16 and 17 probation improvement and incentive grant in the amount of $335,803 for fiscal years 18 and 19. So it's kind of confusing, but this is the first year that this grant has been divided the way it is. And I just received word yesterday that this grant will actually end November 30th. And there will be a new grant introduced called the Justice Reinvestment Incentive Grant. And the Probation Improvement and Incentive Grant will no longer exist. So as of November 30th, that will be the last year you'll hear of the pig, as we so notoriously call it.
Which is why this is just a 2-month addendum.
Correct.
Sure. Okay. Any questions?
Done.
Okay, can we get a motion then to execute an addendum to the subsidy grant agreement between Clermont County and the State of Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Correction, Division of Parole and Community Services, Bureau of Community Sanctions, as referenced in item 10.
So moved.
Second?
Mr. Painter,
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey,
Aye.
Yes. Good luck. Thanks, Julie. Julie, is there something then that comes out after November to pick up for this for the next year?
Yes, it's the Justice Reinvestment and Incentive Grant. They've essentially renamed it, and we are still pre-approved for that grant, but we have no idea what the new guidelines will be, what the new strings attached may be,
Yeah.
so I have to take a look at that. And the email that I received yesterday said they think that they'll be opening that grant application up on Monday. So I should know more then, but my intention is, if it's very similar to the probation improvement and incentive grant, to apply for that grant, because it's automatic approval.
Ideally, this would pick up, the Justice Grant would pick up right after this one expires.
Correct,
Yeah.
and the funny thing is, we have no clue how much money is involved in the new grant, so it may change these totals that I read off.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Julie, what were the limitations on the PIG grant? Were there any particular limitations on that as far as how it applied to adult probation?
It had to apply to some sort of community corrections funds of the community correction activity in our community. But there were goals that went along with it that we had to strive to meet, which involved committing less offenders to prison than we had in years past. And I believe that the Justice Reinvestment and Incentive Grant will have similar goals, but I would like to see it before I commit to that, because they change things like what you can see from month to month this time around.
Okay. Thank you.
Craig, you're next up.
Morning, Craig Reisner, Clermont County Engineer's Office. Item number 11, recommendation of Patrick J. Munger, County Engineer, with the concurrence of Thomas J. Eigel, Interim County Administrator, to execute record plat number 6293011 for the replats of lots in the following subdivision located within Union Township. It's replats of lots 36, 37, and 38 of Gallagher's subdivision.
Okay, can we get a motion then to execute record plat 629-3011 as referenced in the table in item 11?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Hubel?
Yes. Item 12.
Item 12 is a recommendation of Patrick J. Munger, County Engineer, with the concurrence of Thomas J. Eigel, Interim County Administrator, to execute record plat number 6293012 for the following subdivision located in Goshen Township, and to further execute a performance and maintenance bond for streets as well as a performance bond for sidewalks as surety for the same relative to the construction of the below listed streets. We have a performance bond for streets of $35,000 and a performance bond for sidewalks $39,200. It's for Woodlands Reserve Subdivision, Section 3.
Okay, can we get a motion then to execute record plat 629-3012 and further to execute the performance and maintenance bonds as referenced in the table in item 12?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye.
Mr. Hubel?
Yes. Thanks, Craig.
Item 13 is a recommendation to authorize David Ubel, President of the Board of County Commissioners, to execute a satisfaction of mortgage certifying that the terms of the mortgage and promissory note are secured as dated, have been satisfied, and authorize the recorder to release said mortgage of record for the following property as it relates to the Ohio Department of Development Neighborhood Stabilization Program. And this is for Michael Pergram of Bethel, Ohio.
We get a motion then to execute a satisfaction of mortgage for the following property as referenced in the table in item 13.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Hubel?
Yes. Thought you were done, huh?
Thought I was done too.
No.
Item 14.
Item number 14 is a recommendation of Patrick J. Munger, County Engineer, to initiate procedures to change the names of a portion of Eichholz Road to Summerside Road, a portion of Eichholz Road to Fleurin Lane, a portion of Old State Route 74 to Eichholz Road, and all of Russ Lane to Eichholz Road, all of which are located in Union Township. And to authorize the clerk of the board to place notice of a public hearing in the Clermont Sun for 1 week, commencing on Thursday, October 5th, designating the date, time, and location of the public hearing to be held pursuant to and in compliance with Section 554104 of the Ohio Revised Code. The public hearing is to be held on Wednesday, October 25th at 10:30 a.m. local time at the office of the Clermont County Board of Commissioners, 101 East Main Street, Batavia, Ohio.
We get a motion then to initiate procedures to change the names of a portion of Eichholz Road to Summerside Road, a portion of Eichholz Road to Florin Lane, a portion of Old State Route 74 to Eichholz Road, and all of Russ Lane to Eichholz Road, all of which are located in Union Township as referenced in item 14.
These are a part of Eichholz Road, making it more clear rather than less clear that they're on the same highway and they're not jumping back and forth between highways as they drive the same path.
That's correct.
And my understanding is Union Township is on board with those changes.
Yes, we have received correspondence from Union Township in favor of this road name change.
Okay?
So Craig, how do you notify Google so somebody doesn't get confused?
We actually have a person in our office that can notify Google with his phone. And we've had him make corrections on Google, and they've appeared within a couple hours before, or sometimes it might take a week or two. It's clearly up to Google to take care of that, but we will notify Google of the road name changes.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay, Andy, you gonna handle 15?
Have we had a motion?
I'm sorry?
So moved.
Oh,
Second.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye.
Mr. Yubel?
yes. Andy?
Item 15 is a recommendation from the Board of Elections to request an increase of compensation for precinct officials from $105 to $120, and an increase in compensation for the required training, therefore, from $25 to $35. And with the reimbursement as it relates to pickup of election supplies and the return thereof to the Board of Elections at a minimum of $10 and a maximum of $55.
For mileage, for
For mileage, yes.
road, okay.
And this is in concert with their letter of request dated 9/21 of 2016 and received on 9/22/2016.
Can we get a motion then to approve the request to increase the compensation as well as increasing the training compensation as well as a reimbursement cost for mileage to Board of Election, I guess volunteers or officials, I'm sorry, as referenced in item 15.
So moved.
Second, and with discussion, Judy, is there any mandate that we could make to make Mr. Combs appear in front of this board to answer questions about this increase?
I'm not certain about the word mandate.
I'm just kidding.
But if we asked, I'm sure he'd be here.
You're right.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Yubel?
Yes. Suki, OMB.
Yeah. We have a large financial this week. We have one supplemental appropriation in our general fund. This is in our health and non-operating expenses of $500,000. We have been watching our health claims this year, and they're not pretty. There actually will not be enough proceeds from the departments and the employees to cover the claims this year. So I've already given them one advance. They're going to require another one. We did build some of that back into next year's rates to recoup this, so hopefully we'll start to be able to repay some of this next year. I don't expect that we'll be able to repay it this year if the claims continue the way they have for the last 6 weeks. So next week we'll transfer the cash, but I have to appropriate it this week in order to be able to move it. So.
We have, there's so many ins and outs of monies, but wasn't there a rebate we got for the health care?
Was. We went through that already.
How much was that?
$169,000 on prescriptions. Hopefully next year's rebate will be much higher because this last week the claims were very heavy on prescriptions. So they just jumped way up. So we must have some new prescriptions that were included that were probably very expensive.
Okay.
But ultimately, the goal is to get all this back to general fund, and we'll just do it as a loan to the health insurance fund because it should be self-supporting between the departments and the employees.
Okay, can we get a motion then for item 16 for the supplemental appropriations?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye.
Mr. Yule?
Yes. Suzuki was just curious, but was this one or two major claims or a series of claims or?
It doesn't appear to be one or two claims because then we would be looking at some stop loss reimbursement. So it's just multiple, and like I said, the prescriptions were ridiculous this time. Usually we have like $20,000. We were hit with $70,000 this past week in prescriptions.
Okay,
So I would expect if it does continue though at this level, that some of these will end up stop loss and we'll get that money back from the stop loss coverage.
Okay.
So.
thank you. Oh, yeah, Bob, go ahead.
The Suki's rate, it was $70,000 for 1 week for prescriptions, which was about 30% of what we paid in claims for the whole week. It's very unusual, but it is a combination of little ones, no major.
Okay.
We've been watching it and doing our best. It's been a really tough year for us.
Great.
I'm comfortable that Suki's promised to get it back, so I'm good.
It's a personal guarantee, is that it? Okay, we have need today for executive session pursuant to section 121.22G1 of the Ohio Revised Code to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, and/or compensation of one or more public employees. Can we get a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Oh, hold on. We need to back up on the last issue then, right?
You wanna-
We have an add-on, and Gail Foley is here for and on behalf of the Department of Community.
Gail, you were in the back row, that's why I forgot.
She's
you.
here to answer questions. I'll go ahead and read the motion.
All right.
She actually worked on all the.
I'll take back the request for a motion, but we have an add-on here. Go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, the add-ons is to authorize adoption of Resolution 147-17, to authorize the execution of cooperation agreements by and between the Board of County Commissioners and the City of Milford, as well as the villages of Amelia, Bethel, Felicity, Moscow, New Richmond, Owensville, and Williamsburg, in and as it relates to the Clermont County's application for the Urban County Qualification for federal funding for the Community Development Block Grant Program for years 2018, 2019, and 2020. So we have to do this every 3 years to be able to draw down the HUD funds. This is part of becoming a HUD entitlement community. Townships are automatically included in this, but cities and villages that want to participate have to proactively sign this cooperation agreement.
Okay. We get a motion then to adopt Resolution 147-17.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Yule?
Yes. And can we get a motion to go into executive session pursuant to 121.22G1?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye.
Mr. Yule?
Yes. We'll be right back. We are back from executive session. No decisions were made or votes taken. And there will be no add-ons. And I believe we have had the minutes prepared while we were gone, knowing that that would be the case. So whenever one of the other two commissioners would like to make the motion to accept today's minutes of September 27th, 2017, we'll entertain that motion.
I move that we approve the minutes of today's meeting.
Those add-ons were on there, the two NRAC, Ohio,
Yep.
Clean Ohio funds. Okay.
So moved.
I made the motion, I believe, so you can.
Second.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Yule?
Yes. And can we get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Aye.
Mr. Yule?
Yes. Thank you for coming. See you next week.